A new report reveals that cybercrime continues to grow at an alarming rate, and that is creating serious threats for businesses and consumers. Joining us today to talk about this is cybersecurity expert Chris Novak, who's here to share some shocking information from Verizon's annual data breach investigation report. Novak's vice president of Verizon Global Cybersecurity Solutions, with more than 20 years experience providing solutions to prevent cyber threats. So, Chris, welcome to Cincy Lifestyle.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me.
So this is certainly concerning for a lot of people. What are some of the highlights of this report?
Yeah, so this report, the 18th year that we've been publishing the Verizon Data Breach Investigations report, and it's really a wake-up call for everybody. The report covers over 22,000 incidents and over 12,000 confirmed data breaches, spanning more than 130 countries. So really highlighting the fact that this is a global problem. Some of the key highlights that I'd pull out of it are the fact that third-party risk continues to be a thorn in our side with a dramatic increase year on year. And this means threat actors aren't necessarily always coming right at your front door, but they may be trying to get at you through, a partner, a vendor, or part of your supply chain. And so it really broadens that risk horizon. The other thing I'd also point out is small and medium businesses see a dramatic hit as well. This year, we saw that ransomware makes up about 88% of those breaches, which is really just tremendous. And think about it, if you're a small or medium business, that kind of ransomware attack, whether it's $100,000 or $1 million ransom, that may very well be the thing that determines whether or not you can survive or not. And so how you handle that is obviously extraordinarily critical.
And how can small businesses be better prepared?
Yeah, so the key to that preparedness is around, first and foremost, education and awareness. A lot of this comes in the form of some form of social engineering attack. So making sure that your employees understand and are trained on how to spot a scam or a phishing attack, and then not just how to spot it, but how to report it so that you can ultimately prevent these attacks from continuing and snowballing into something else. One of the things that we often say is that cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. It can't just be delegated to a security team or an IT team because they're not necessarily always the first one that's going to see the attack coming.
What are the most common threats you're seeing?
Some of the most common are things like phishing, pretexting. There's a variation on that called smishing, where the attack comes in the form of a text message where you'll receive a message that may claim to be a extraordinarily unusual financial transaction that you need to refute, or a package that needs to be picked up, and there's almost always a little link in there that they want you to click on, and then when you click on that, they ask you to log in and give up your password or other sensitive information, or they use it as a way to install malware on your system that ultimately they use to further the attack and exploitation of you or your organization.
This really is troubling. How can businesses or consumers protect their information?
So while there's no one size fits all when it comes to cybersecurity, there is a generally well accepted best practice that you'll see come out of the report, and that is a layered approach to security, or what we often refer to as a defense in depth strategy. And we're looking at, how is it that an organization is securing their endpoints, managing a proper password policy, for example, using things like multi-factor authentication, those little codes you need to log in. And then the other thing I also really encourage people to lean on and lean into is their response plan, because we know it's not a matter of if an organization will experience one of these events, it's a matter of when. And at that point, it comes down to how well prepared are you? One of the things that my team gets called in to do very often is help organizations build their response plan and actually stress test and simulate a real live incident or breach to see how well their response plan actually holds up under real pressure.
Well, I know you mentioned things like ransomware, but how serious overall is cybercrime?
I would argue it's one of the most significant and serious things that we face. Just think about the fact that most of us the things that are most important to us in our lives are probably tied to something cyber, which means it has the ability to negatively impact all of that. And it's not just about data and whether or not your credit card was hacked or your social security number was stolen. Obviously, nobody wants any of that. But it also comes down to reputational damage, operational risk, resiliency of your operations. All of that plays into it. So, I think ultimately it's only going to get more and more serious and more concerning as time goes on.
Well, a lot of great information here, Chris Novak. Where can we go for more information?
The best resource I can provide is the full report. I'd encourage people to download it and give it a read. You can get it at verizon.com/DBIR or Data Breach Investigations Report, and it's chock full of data and recommendations.